Welcome back, and in this video we're going to have a look at how to create a nice, clean, pure white background when you have a silhouette or maybe just an image that you're looking to make the background a clean, pure white. I'm just going to go through how I do it. I used to do this a lot years ago, especially when white backgrounds were very on trend at the time. We're talking well over a decade ago. But I'm just going to show you the techniques that I do to try and make this image pop and as clean as possible to make a nice pure silhouette. So first thing you can see is that my background is mostly quite clean anyway, just from the lighting. We've got a light behind the subject hitting onto a white wall, but you might be able to see that there's a little bit of cloudiness around at the top, a little bit sort of around here, and there's a little bit of cloudiness at the bottom down in this area too. So we want to, first of all, make it easier for us to be able to see which areas are cloudy and which areas are not. So the first thing I'm going to do is create an adjustments layer. I'm going to use the little icon down here, the circle with the black and the white segment, and we're going to click levels. You can also do this with curves if you're more familiar with curves. For me, levels is the way to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my midtones, this middle one in here, down, and you watch that background get much darker. And we can now see all of the other grey areas. You can see this bit here is stayed pure white because it is pure white, but these areas here need a lot more work. So I've got my adjustments layer there. I'm going to edit onto my background layer. So I'm clicking onto this background layer here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use my dodge tool, and I'm going to put it on to highlights, meaning it is going to lighten purely the highlights. So hopefully when I draw over the subject, it's not going to lighten too much because they are almost all shadows. Now, if I click immediately, you're going to see that it creates this sort of blurry, yellowy kind of circle, which I can keep growing. However, it's not going to make it pure white. Now, the reason for that is we have a little button up here called Protect Tones ticked. And we don't want to protect the tone. We are trying to destroy the tone. We want to completely eliminate it and make it pure white. So I'm going to untick that, and immediately you'll see that the areas are going to go pure white and they're not going to go just yellow after that. Now, I want to change my exposure of my brush down. I'm going to put it on 10% because really I shouldn't need a lot to do this. And the lower I have that exposure, the less I risk overlapping my actual subject and bleeding some of that image out later. So now that I'm on 10%, I can literally just color around. If I want to go higher, I can put it on 30% and do that. But especially for my edges, I'm going to make sure I keep it down to like a 10% kind of area. Okay, let's draw that out. I always quite enjoyed this bit. I thought this bit was quite fun. Just getting to colour it in was quite therapeutic, especially back in the day when we did this on a lot of different images. Okay, clearing that out there. And I've just got this bit around the hair to do. I'm going to take it down. I've gone up to 30. I'm going to take it back down to around the sort of 10 and 12, but around that mark. And just draw around those edges until we get a much cleaner kind of silhouette. Okay, so if I turn my adjustments layer off, so I'm going to make it invisible by hitting the little button there, you can see that we've now got a nice clean background with no cloudy bits around the edge. I'll use history just to show you that you can see it was cloudy and then it was much cleaner, much nicer. The last thing I'm going to do to this silhouette is I want to clean up the edges on the hair up here. And I'm actually going to do that using a clone stamp. So using my clone stamp, which is over here, I'm going to grab my brush, grab from the white section and paint right up to the edges. Now you got to watch for your feathered edges here. If we've got the brush on the wrong feathering, it's going to start doing that and not looking as realistic. I'm going to come just in here and just feather that to the edges. And leaving a few of the hairs there, just trying to neaten it up ever so slightly. Now I'm using my clone stamp, but the actual reality is we're painting white. You could just use a paintbrush that is white. It really doesn't matter too much on what we're doing. Clone stamp would be the correct tool to use for any other color background, because you're going to want to take the accurate color of the background, but we're dealing with a pure white. So really, it is going to be just pure white. You can use a white paintbrush. The last thing, I've got a few little hairs sticking up here, so I've just highlighted them. I'll zoom in so you can see, and I'm just going to content aware them out to get rid of those last bits and make my silhouette nice and clean. I'm going to do the same with these hairs down here. Just take that odd one out from there. But apart from that, I am happy with how that is. I can now delete my adjustments layer, as I no longer need that to make it a pure silhouette. And the last thing to decide now is how light or dark I want the silhouette. For anyone who was in the studio with me, you know that we had a polyboard down this side here. So it created a tiny bit of light just hitting the cheek. So if you use your levels or your curves, you can bring that up and control that as much as you want to wherever you want it to be. But for what I'm going to do, I'm just wanting a pure silhouette for now. So that's where we're at the moment. I hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you've got any questions, and see you for the next one.